Hello once again and welcome to my channel. Today I will be showing you how I created these vegan oxtails and seitan steaks. Before I start this video, I want to say a big thank you to everyone who has subscribed to my channel. I appreciate it very much, as well as all the great feedback that I'm getting from you all. I'm starting off with already washed flour. If you have not watched my drumstick video on how I wash the flour, please watch the first 11 minutes of that, and that will show you exactly how to get to this point. These are all the ingredients that I use to season the seitan dough. You will find a list of these ingredients in the description box below as well. I'm starting off with onion and garlic powder, beetroot powder, nutritional yeast, and consomme. Next we have umami mushroom flavoring, instant coffee, and cocoa powder. This is a mixture of red cooking wine, liquid aminos, and Worcestershire sauce. And lastly, this is a combination of sesame seed oil and liquid smoke. You're going to mix well until you create a paste, and that's what you will be seasoning your dough with. In this step, you will see how I combine the paste and the dough together. I simply take about a tablespoon of the seasoning paste and a few chunks of the dough, and I combine them together in my blender cup. It will be easier to use a food processor if you have one. I would suggest you put in the dough before adding the paste to your blender cup or food processor, just because I noticed that it stuck to the bottom of the cup, so just something for you to avoid. And this was halfway through blending the paste and the dough together. As you notice, they're all a little slightly different. And now we're going to combine everything together to make sure that everything is mixed well. I did leave a portion that I did not combine, and if you're looking for a more realistic look, I would suggest you do the same. So as you see here, I'm stretching the dough out and then kneading it to make sure that everything is combined well. I added this garlic or black pepper seasoning salt, which I thought would be appropriate for the steak. You are welcome to add herbs at this point if you'd like, but this is the McCormick brand if you'd like to use the same thing I did. At this point, I cut the dough into 9 pieces. I did this by cutting it with a knife, but you're welcome to tear off the pieces or use kitchen shears. And then I used this technique where I tuck the dough to the back and I let it rest in a dish. This time around, I let it rest for an hour and a half before knotting it. I did take the remaining paste that was both in the mixing bowl and at the bottom of the blender, and I just rubbed it over the dough balls that I made as they were resting. I wanted to add extra flavor, so what I did is I went ahead and I steamed them in a broth that had onions and bell peppers and garlic, as well as a little bit of garlic salt and that McCormick seasoning that I showed you earlier. Now this is where I started knotting them, and this is how I did that. I knotted each individual ball into about 3 to 4 knots, and then I tucked in the ends into the dough ball itself, as you see here. I did steam the dough balls into 2 separate batches. I first did 5 of the knotted dough balls, and then I did 4 more. Using this knotting technique will result in you getting some really nice shreds. It is now time to steam the 5 seitan balls for the first batch of steaming, and these are the 4 that remained in the dish, and they just rested in there while the other ones were done cooking. I did use a multi-function steamer. I do steam the seitan in 30-minute increments because that's what my steamer allows, but this is the halfway point, and once my 30 minutes are up, I go ahead and I flip them over and continue steaming for another 30 minutes. And this is what they look like after they are done. This is after steaming them for a full hour. I then remove them from the heat and I started steaming my second batch, which was the 4 remaining pieces. Now this is what the seitan looks like when it is completely cooked, and here I am showing you how it looks on the inside, and as you could see here, it shreds nicely. The seitan is now fully cooked and can be used in any dish that you would like to include it into. I ended up slicing them and making them into barbecue steaks. I will show you how I did that at the end of this video. I would recommend storing the remaining seitan in the freezer for when you are ready to use it. I did use 2 seitan balls to slice them and cut them into pieces, and the other 3 I shredded, and this is what it looks like. And now it's time to roll the seitan in the rice paper, and I will show you how I did that next. And these are the rice paper sheets that I used. They are a little on the bigger side, but I made it work. I just simply moved it around in the pan of warm water to make sure that all the sides got wet. And this is how I roll the seitan in the rice paper. As you see here, I am lining it up with the seitan and then folding over the rice paper, holding it tightly to ensure that there isn't any air bubbles. I do move my hands back and forth on all sides, and I hold it tightly as I go. I repeated this process until I used up all the seitan and got a total of 8 seitan rolls. I would suggest you divide your seitan into 8 portions to ensure you get 8 rolls as well, and this is what they look like. I was looking to obtain the most realistic look in the bone of the oxtail, or in the oxtail look overall, and after doing a little research I found that jicama is a good vegetable to cook because it holds its shape and it is crunchy. I had not seen it used before on any other recipes, so I thought, why not give it a go? I used the longest pieces to incorporate into the seitan rolls, and what I did was I took a knife and cut the edges off to create the roundest look possible. It is now time to roll the seitan rolls and jicama together. As you see here, I'm placing 2 of the seitan rolls, and then I had a little bit of trouble with the jicama. It wouldn't stay together. I didn't think about rolling it in rice paper until I was making the video, so this is why it's not rolled, but I do recommend you roll it in rice paper as well so that everything binds together nicely. I ended up wrapping the roll into a second piece of rice paper to ensure that everything stayed together nicely, being that the jicama kept on falling out. And then as you will see next, oops, I ripped it there a little bit, but I just kept on going. And then what I did next was I took a whole sheet of the rice paper and cut it in half, and I used that for the ends to make sure that everything stayed together. I then cut it into 6 even pieces before baking it. In making the vegan drumstick video, I learned that the rice paper will stick to the baking dish if it is not oiled. So what I did with these is I rolled them in olive oil before putting them on the baking dish to bake. Now this is what the oxtails look like before going into the oven at 375 for 35 minutes. And I did get a total of 12, so please modify the recipe as you need depending on how many servings you'd like to have. Now this is about the time that I did my happy dance because I was really happy with my results. And I decided that I would make a red sauce, which is a birria sauce, to put them in. These were nice and crispy on the outside, and I actually got really good texture from doing it that way in the oven, so I highly recommend you bake them. Now my oven is a smaller conventional oven and it heats up really nicely, so just adjust your temperature as needed and cook until the outer skin is browned. And this is the oxtails cooking in the red sauce. I put them on a simmer for about 15 minutes before serving them. And this is the final result. I wanted to show you the texture. They were so much like the real thing. I couldn't get over it. I did have them with some rice and beans, also sprinkled some cilantro and onion on top, and I added an oiled chili sauce to it that gave it a little kick. Now at this point the other batch was already done cooking, or steaming I should say, and what I did was I cut it into little slices and I browned it on both sides with just a little bit of oil, and then I added some barbecue sauce. Now these were so delicious. They tasted so much like beef ribs to me, so I highly recommend you cook them like this as well. I did have some leftovers the following day and I just put them on a griddle, and I also added barbecue sauce, and these were my final results. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe and hit that notification button. I will try my best to upload new content weekly.